Welcome, People Over Politics, Episode 3. I'm the host, Martin Mitchell, and today I'm joined by my friend, Anthony Tilghman. Anthony, thanks for joining us.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Man, I appreciate you. And of course, last time I spoke with you on camera, it was on the opposite. You were interviewing me. So, it'll be great to hear from you because, of course, I think you're a very behind the scenes type of guy usually. Yeah, that's a good assessment.
Of course, definitely. I'm definitely behind the scenes, and you're more in front of the camera. And of course, because I'm a photographer, I'm behind the camera. So but I think everybody needs to be seen at some point. Especially if you're in this industry of just providing services.
Well, of course, and Anthony, uh, of course, tell us a little bit about you. Who you are and what you do, because of course you do so many things. I know you mentioned a photographer, but you're also an author. You're also a public servant. You're also a community educator of the kids. So just tell us a little bit about yourself for people who might not know you.
Well, so I'm Anthony Tilghman. First of all, I'm the executive director of Make Smart Cool, a nonprofit organization that supports education. That's our mission is education for the youth, parents, teachers, and the community. And I'm also a photographer, a freelance photographer. Um, that's pretty much my what I do for a living. I'm also a business owner and an author. So I try to dab in a little everything, and I'm also an activist. You know what I'm saying? I'm an education advocate. Education matters. That's why Make Smart Cool is so important to me because you know education is a human right, and I think we kind of give those traits away to people. People just don't have that privilege, especially people in other countries don't have the same rights as we do to get a quality education. And even here, in Prince George's County, it's as you can see, it's still not equal. You know what I'm saying? It's just that assessment. We don't have the same resources as our counterparts through certain parts of the Beltway.
Of course, and you brought up a lot of great points. But of course, one of the things that I want to highlight on is that you said how we still have to. There's still a lot of work we have to do as a county because of course we're a county that went from majority white to majority black, and has had black leadership, only for what the last 40 some odd years, 40 50 some odd years. So we're still coming into our own as a county, and there is a lot of work to be done. But one of the things that I wanted to highlight is your activism, right? Sometimes you're on the ground, but sometimes you're behind the lens with your activism. So, people might not know you, of course, by name, but they know your pictures, right? So you have a picture that I saw that was an aerial view of the Black Lives Matter Avenue or Boulevard in DC. Tell us a little bit about that shot and what that moment was like.
So that was Black Lives Matter Plaza, and
Apologies.
pretty much when Mayor Bowser of DC she pretty much premiered the actual plaza. So that evening I was actually covering an event in DC, and and I actually saw what they was doing. I was talking to one of the guys, and he was just painting it. And then I was like, "Hey, what you doing?" He was like, "We about to, you know, about to get about to premiere this memorial tomorrow." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, we about to premiere this memorial. It's like it's nice, man. It's nice." So he's like, "Yeah, you should come through in the morning. We'll be done." I was like, "Oh, bet." So I just stayed around the city. At that time, it was protest every night. So I'm not sure if that was pretty much when DC was really heavy, and just Black Lives Matter, the whole so many protests about so many different things, especially that was a George Floyd moment. The
Well,
George Floyd moment.
I was helping plan the protest in Prince Georgia, so I remember around that same moment for sure.
Yeah, so we was protesting everywhere. So I think that whole summer I did about 50 protests, and
Uh,
so this talking to them, and then of course there was a press conference that morning, and of course I worked for the Washington Informer newspaper as a photographer, so I had to actually cover their press conference that next morning. So I actually got there that morning, and I saw the actual mural, and I was actually at the bottom of the bee, and I was tweeting. I was just literally just tweeting, posting a picture of the bee, and then I was trying to figure out a way to get up top. Like, how am I gonna get up top? So I just actually just went into the hotel over there, and I was like, hey, can I go up here and take a picture? And it was like, sure, you know what I'm saying? So I went up, to the top of the hotel and took a picture. And that's when everybody started following me. So I wanted to make sure that I was first. So I snapped it on my phone and I ended up tweeting it. And the picture went viral. Like it was crucial. It was like probably one of the most, at that point, after I tweeted it, I was going downstairs and like, it was like everywhere. It was like I literally was like trending. You know what I'm saying, on Twitter, and it was just like, over like 1,000 retweets of that photo, and that was pretty much how that situation happened. But of course, a lot of people know me from the Obama days. I'm not sure if you guys know, but when I first started photography back in 06, I was actually just doing a lot of models and photography. And then, 07, when Obama was running for office, I became, part of the campaign team as far as helping him, in Bowie State. So I did some volunteer campaign photography for his, for his organization, for his office, as he's running. And then, helping out with different campaigns, Hillary Clinton, I did some photography for her campaign. So I was just like out, just taking pictures of events.
Absolutely.
And just, and that's pretty much how I got started in photography. So a lot of people, don't know that, but that's pretty much how it began. And before I did photography, I was actually doing public relations, PR. So that's pretty much where my marketing and public relations background come from.
Okay. Well, for somebody, if you don't know, Anthony, he took some of my first campaign pictures. So if you check out, the martinforlaurel.com, all these ones by the lake and with the kids, that was Anthony. Of course, Anthony was one of the first people I wanted to hit up, when I needed pictures done, because one, I knew that he takes stellar pictures, and then two, you got to support your own. So of course, but Anthony, you do a lot around great photography, you do a lot around your activism. So I want to hear more about you as an author. Tell us about your book. I think you're working on another one, but tell us about your book. I know it's on Amazon, doing very well.
So I just put out a book in December. It's called Black Male, Black Hoodie. So it shows it profiles racism that African American males go through. You know what I'm saying? So it's about racial profiling. So every year I try to put out a children's book, talk about society issues. And I think as a black male, and as of course as yourself as a black male, we go through different situations as other people. When we go into a store, we automatically profiled because of what we have on and what we wear. So I kind of wanted to make sure our youth, they learn about their rights and they learn about what African American males have to go through. So I wrote a children's book called Black Male, Black Hoodie. It's available right now on Amazon, of course. That, and also perfect time is because it's Black History Month. So that is actually the best time to talk about that right now. But every year, so this is my my third children's book that I put out from like the past 3 years. My first children's book was called Bull to Bully. It talks about bullying and how that affect the youth. And my second book was called I Want a Pet Cheetah. You know what I'm saying? So, when I was younger, I always wanted a cheetah as a pet. Like cheetah is my favorite, animal in the world. So, I always wanted a pet cheetah. And my mom was like, well, you can't have a cheetah because it's dangerous. You know what I'm saying? So it's a wild animal. So I wrote a children's book, and it came out last year about that. So, every year, and I'm glad you told me because I'm going to give you an exclusive. My next children's book is actually going to be about driving while black.
Oh, I like it. And I like that. Of course, you're making this relatable to kids. From what I've seen, it's a lot of illustrations. But it's also topics that are important. For children, and especially growing up in the age that we're growing up. So I appreciate you for that. And just on the continuing to be an educator, I wanted to give you a shout out. I see on your shirt, You know, I see a Make Smart Cool shirt. So you got to show show the branding. Absolutely.
Yes, Make Smart Cool.
So tell us about what is Make Smart Cool. Tell us about it.
So Make Smart Cool, I started Make Smart Cool in 2013. It was actually a t-shirt movement. That's how we started with the t-shirts. It was a brand that came together to kind of support education for the youth. You know, being smart is the coolest thing that you can be. You know what I'm saying? And so many people we don't, you know, don't really see that image. When we're in school, you know, people want to be popular. They want to be, you know, funny, you know, but you know, it's the kids that's smart that don't really get the right, you know, feedback or the right, you know, behavior, you know, as far as what they're actually accomplishing, you know, and I want every kid to be smart because you know being smart, you know, is cool, and you don't have to portray you know, a certain way to fit in, you know, and that's one thing that makes Smart Cool do. We kind of show that you can be smart and still be cool at the same time. You don't have to, you know, you don't have to try to fit in by being something that you're not. And right now we live in a society where, you know, we have social media, we have trends, and people just going through so much in life. And you know, a quality education is worth it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, well, you know, Nelson Mandela said, you know, the most powerful weapon in the world is education. And I think that's what we all need to like kind of, you know, want to portray because you never stop learning. And that's what makes Smart Cool is about. You know, just teaching people that, you know, you don't have to go to college. You can pretty much go to a trade school and still have the same quality education as everybody else. And I think that's what we need to focus on right now is that not everybody is suitable for college, but there are so many ways and books and education is ongoing. It's an ongoing thing. You never stop learning. Me and you, when I first met you and you was telling me that you was running for office, you know, you was learning, you was doing that on your own. You know what I'm saying? You had to like you didn't have any training. You know what I'm saying? Like you didn't really, you had to teach yourself.
Living is learning.
So that's pretty much what we need to like, you know, tell our kids is that you know, education matters and being smart is the coolest thing that you can be.
Absolutely. I mean, I appreciate that. And the thought is staying in the Make Smart Cool realm. I know I told you about the coming to read, so you gotta make sure I get signed up to come to read for one of your reading sessions. You know, I know, huh?
Everybody always want to come until it's time to come, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I know you're super busy now, Mr. Council Member. You know what I'm saying? You know, and I one thing I will say is you're a man of your word. You know what I'm saying? I know that you are coming, and I know that you will make time for the kids. You know, we talk a lot about education. Yeah. So,
but of course we're gonna get that on the schedule. But also what I wanted to say was I know you do a lot on social media. I've seen I think it's the Prince George's County Education Roundtable, and you know they talk to a lot of people, talk about a lot of hard hitting issues. You know, tell us a little bit about that, and you know your vision for that.
So the Education Roundtable was something I created 3 years ago. You know, as an education advocate, I get so many people always complain about stuff. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I'm about solutions. So, you know, I started the Education Roundtable as a way to kind of come together as a way for community, parents, teachers, you know, to come together and just come up with solutions to education issues that happen in our county. So, you know, Prince George's County has one of the largest school districts in the country. You know what I'm saying? And I think that makes us stand out. So, you know, I think there are so many issues going on that there's a group like ourselves that kind of can fight for those issues and help advocate for what we need to do to change the way people think about education. And the Education Roundtable is a group of, you know, of 1,600 members right now and growing that just kind of talks about education. Um, we do listening sessions of board members. You was actually on our listening session, you know, that we held in, you know, the first listening session that we held. You know, every year we give you guys bragging rights. You know, you guys accomplish so much. You know, community leaders, education members, and we want you guys to just talk about what you're accomplishing. You know, as far as education, because you know so many people really don't have time to follow them. Like, we do board meeting recaps. Uh, we talk about what's happening in the schools. We talk about legislation that's actually coming up for this support education. So we're the advocates for you, because we know that parents, teachers, and students have busy lives. And we're here to give you that recap and to give you that community that you can be a part of, to help you with those goals and kind of mindset about education.
Okay. And I agree with you, and I appreciate that. And of course, just sticking on Prince George's County, it being a large school system, and of course, you guys being a community, there's always a lot of mud that gets thrown at Prince George's County School Board, right? So, I want you to speak on some highlights and some focus areas, that we can focus in on that aren't negative, that are positives, some things that have happened over the last couple of years.
Well, one of the biggest accomplishments right now is financial literacy. We the Board of Education passed the financial literacy course, so now financial literacy is a required course in order to graduate. And I think that's what every kid needs right now is financial literacy. Well, when we was younger, what I'm saying, we didn't have that financial literacy, and so many people are just making the bad decisions about saving, and they don't really know. And I think that's one of the biggest things that happen with the board. And also you know one thing that just actually happened is the Kerwin, the blueprint. The blueprint is huge. Our schools need to be fully funded, and the blueprint, which is part of the Kerwin Commission, and we're advocating for that right now, because education is a human right, and there should never be lack of funding for any student to have a quality education. There is no such thing as we shouldn't have enough money for education. Education should be fully funded for every student. And I think that's one of the biggest issues going on right now, not just around Prince George's County, but worldwide. Teachers need to be paid a living wage salary. $60,000 a year should be the minimum for a teacher.
Well, what was it?
1,000.
Was that is 100?
Huh?
100?
No, 60,000.
60. Okay, I
60,000 a year should be the minimum a teacher makes as far as a salary. That should be the starting salary for a teacher, 60,000 and going up. Every school system should have, should be fully funded. And also lunch. Lunch should be free. Every kid should have free lunch, free breakfast. Okay. You know what I'm saying? It's stuff like that really makes the school go. Every school should have a minimum of 5 mental health professionals in the school.
That's what I was going to make sure you hit on. I was going to say, what about
5 mental health professionals
okay.
And counselors in every school? Right now, we have kids that's just going through so many issues at home, and they're bringing them to school. And I think, not just, somebody to talk to, but there needs to be somebody that's actually listening to them. You know what I'm saying? Like, the reason why we're having so much, issues in the school system as far as, violence and just because kids they're home, you know what I'm saying? And we're in a major pandemic. But let's not be hasty here. A lot of the issues that we had for our school system happened pre-pandemic. We always had a transportation problem. You know what I'm saying? We always had and I don't understand why we always have a transportation problem. You know what I'm saying? Like we have one of the biggest school systems in the world, and we have a transportation problem, and we have one of the biggest, transportation, we have Metro. You know what I'm saying? Our Metro system is one of the largest transportation systems in the world. Like, a lot of people like from other states, they look at our world-class transportation system. And they kind of praise it. They say, "Oh yeah, Metro is good," and then we get funding for that. Metro is pretty much fully funded, but our education is it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't understand why our legislators fight for that. You know what I'm saying? And that's one thing that should be mandatory is a quality education for every boy, every girl, every genre should have a quality education.
And I agree with that. And just to talk about 2 hot button issues. One, you mentioned money for social work. social workers and counselors and people to deal with mental health, because of course mental health is important. And a lot of times our kids, they have PTSD, they're going through these different stressors. So where do you stand on the whole counselors not cops? Because of course there's been many legislative pushes to get school resource officers out of schools, especially more Black and brown schools. And some of these schools have very little amount of guidance counselors or mental health therapists, but they're loaded with security. So what is your position, and how do you feel about that? I know it's a very, very controversial hot topic.
Absolutely. I think every school needs more security. If we're gonna pay for SROs, then they need to be held accountable just like everybody else. You know what I'm saying? I think, and that's the problem, is we spend so much money on SROs and school resource officers, and we don't spend enough money on the mental health counselors, social workers, and our teachers. You know what I'm saying? Like, that money can go to somewhere that needs it. Our teachers, like I said before, our teachers need to be making a minimum of $60,000 a year starting. And that money that we pay the SROs can go to fully funding our schools. And of course, security is an issue. You don't need guns to do security for a school. You know what I'm saying? If we have more security officers in the school, then we shouldn't have to really be policing. And I think that's the issue that people really just don't understand, is like, why you need a gun to police our school. Now, of course, crime does happen and things happen, but that's what police are for. You know what I'm saying? Like, we schools don't need their own.
Stop the school shooting, at least in my knowledge, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, SROs, they're there to protect, outsiders from coming in, but outsiders still come in. You know what I'm saying? And like, things that happen around the school shouldn't neglect education that's happening in the school. And that's what's happening right now, is we're just wasting money. Like, if we literally, held the SROs the same accountable as we do the teachers and the administrators, then there will be more money for them.
Okay. Agreed. And I'm on board with that. I know that there's been a push for that at the state legislature, Maryland General Assembly. I believe Delegate Wilkins had a bill last year, and I think she's reintroducing the bill, or has reintroduced the bill.
Yep, Julian Ivey. And of course, another issue is that schools need to be, our board members need to be elected school board. Delegate Julian Ivey.
That's the third.
Delegate Nick Charles, recently put out a bill that they put out all the time about, fully elected school board. And I think that's at-large members shouldn't be appointed. Everybody should be voted in. There's no need for any at-large members, because they don't represent a district. They don't represent constituents. They don't have their own constituents. You can't complain to an at-large member about something that's happening in your district, because they don't have the right to they don't really have a reason to worry about it, because they're not representing that district. We didn't vote them in. The county executive shouldn't have the right to pick her people to represent us. We should pick our own people, just like we pick her.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We should pick everybody. You know what I'm saying? When you ran for office, you had to be, voted in.
Absolutely.
That's how you hold folks accountable. When I vote you in, I can vote you out. We can't vote out an at-large member. You know what I'm saying? We can't hold them accountable. So it's our right as voters. And right now we have voting issues across America right now. And African American voters aren't getting the same rights as other voters, as our counterparts. And that's the problem. We're not getting the same resources as we did before. We think we live in a world where we are part of the solution. People still don't think that African American history is part of American history. African American, we're celebrating Black History Month, and people think that's separate from American history. You know what I'm saying? Black African American American history is Black history, and our kids
celebrated every day. not just 1 month. It should be
Yeah,
celebrated.
we celebrate history all year. You know what I'm saying? Our African Americans have accomplished so many things, you know, and we should be celebrating all year long. There shouldn't be a separate month. Right now, we have everyone is trying to advocate for equality, and but we're celebrating a month for African Americans. We should be celebrating all year long, and I don't care what anyone say is that African American history is American history, and we're aware, African Americans are aware that
Yeah.
we are part of that history. Everything we have accomplished, you know, is a part of history, and it should be taught in schools, and everybody should know their history, white or black or any color should know about African American history.
Mm. Hey, preach. And of course, quickly I'll say that the county executive, she ran on fully elected, so we want fully elected. And segueing to the next point, Anthony, you've been a public servant, you've been an activist, and from my understanding, you're going to run for local office.
Yeah.
Is that
So I'm pretty much, right now I'm deciding, right now what's the best solution for me.
okay?
I have put my hat in for District Heights, for a commissioner. So look out for that. And of course, I applied for a search committee.
Oh,
I think we need to focus on voting rights. I think we need to advocate for everyone to be out here voting. I think one thing that's missing from our search committee is education. I think we're not educating people fully about their voting rights and what they're voting on. I think we just kind of we have this thing in Prince George's County where people don't really understand what's going on with our voting process, and I think people need to be educated on these these ballots, these voting ballots, these everything that's happening with being able to vote, early voting. And I think communication is the issue. I think our biggest thing that we're lacking is communication. When you run for office, you're a part of different establishments, and certain people benefit more than others, and especially local offices, county offices, and people need to be informed about that process. There shouldn't be a sample ballot that matches the actual ballot itself. Like though those two ballots shouldn't be identical. It needs to be a learning process where you can identify the different types of ballots and know that the official ballot doesn't look like the same ballot that you're sending out different candidates, and it needs to be fair. And I think that's the problem with our our the way our system is set up for voting here in Prince George's County is we're not understanding who people are versus what they're voting, what they who they want in office. It seems like they're picking and choosing who they want in office, and we're not having a say about who we want to be in office. Because if you have more money, then you're it seems like they want you to be in office and you're more qualified than somebody who's actually out here putting in the work. You know what I'm saying?
so
You
are
put your
you
whole
a fan of public financing at all? Because I know that that's probably going to be an issue that comes up again, like
what's that
like
right now.
County public financing.
Well, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't want to take money from people that don't support your goals and your solutions. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I honestly, I think there needs to be a way where we can be educated on our right to run a quality election. You can receive money, and also I think board members, as far as our board members, should be able to be in other offices. A board member isn't a full-time job. Just like you're a council member. You're not in a full-time position. You should be able to hold another office. You know what I'm saying? Because if you're not in a full-time position, then you should be able to hold another office. And I think that's unfair to to us. If we're in a part-time position, we should be able to pursue another office, but not an office that's a full-time job, of course. But an office that's pretty much a part-time office.
I agree. I mean that's a good point. That is a good point, Anthony. And before I let you go. Of course, I know you got a busy day. You're always somewhere. You're one of the people that I could say you're not just busy on social media, but busy in real life, right? Because I actually see you at these different locations. Sometimes you might hit me up. You going here? No, I went here earlier. But you are on the go. I've seen you do DC, Baltimore, Prince George's, Virginia, and all in one day. So of course, you're all over the place. But one of the things I want to do, ask you a few questions really quickly. Pepsi or Coke?
Pepsi, of course.
Okay, hey, I think you're one of the first people because I got two Coke people last time, But so the next one is your key Black History Month figure. Since of course we're in Black History Month, like who are you throwing out there? One person.
I'm gonna throw in Thurgood Marshall.
Hey,
Thurgood Marshall.
I respect it. Last question I will ask is favorite Prince Georgian politician, dead or alive?
My favorite politician. Wow, that's a hard one.
I know.
I can't answer that safely. I have so many people that I admire, and I think everyone who does the work for their constituents is a great candidate. I mean, is a great.
Let me ask you another question. What race are you excited most about?
Well, actually, this year I'm gonna be honest. This governor's race is definitely very interesting to me. It's a lot of people that's running for this seat, and I'm just happy that it could be a Democrat. I'm all Democrat this year. I think it's time for a change. We had a Republican governor for a long time, and it's time that we have a Democrat in office. And we have so many amazing candidates, but do your research, people. Like, don't just go by who's popular, who you see at the store. Just do your research, and that's why there it needs to be something educated about every candidate. It needs to be more as far as educated. Research your candidates, research what they offer you as a constituent, because you're going to hold them accountable. So you want to make sure that the person that you're picking is the right person for the job, not because you know them, but because they're accountable and they're fair.
Hey, preach, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on. And of course, before you leave, I want you to give you an opportunity to tell people your handles, your website, where they can reach you. If they need some freelance photography work, how to get in touch with you.
Yep, absolutely. So my website, of course, is anthonytilghman.com, which is my name.com. And of course, you can check out makesmart.cool, which is my nonprofit. Makesmart.cool, because we're too cool for .com. And you can find out all information on Make Smart Cool. And of course, look out for our new Make Smart Cool sweatsuits coming out within the next couple of weeks. And of course, vote for me. If you see my name anywhere on any ballot, vote for me, because I keep it real in real life, not just in social media.
Hey, not only come vote for him, but donate to him, come help door knock, spread the word, tell a neighbor. And I will say that the clothing, is fresh. I had the pastel purple hoodie last year. Oh, I love it. So I can't wait to see this sweatsuit.
Oh yeah, you're gonna be the first. You're gonna be one of the first people that get it. I'm sending it out to my favorite community leaders.
Hey, I appreciate it. I appreciate it, man. Well, and I'll talk to you soon, man. Go keep doing great things in the community. And I appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me, man. And good luck in your new role. And I look forward to seeing some great things coming out of the amazing city of Laurel. And even though it's so far, I'm gonna visit you one day.
For sure. Come on down the Beltway. I got you.
Yeah, I will. Have a good night, man.
Appreciate you. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so that was the first guest on episode 3 of this week's People Over Politics. We have a special guest coming to us, a very good friend of mine, She is a historian in her own right, and and one of the quickest door knockers that I've ever seen. And I know this firsthand because she helped me on my campaign. So of course, with no further ado, I want to introduce Tara Maxwell. She looks like she's on the go. So of course, thanks for joining us.
Hello, Council Member Mitchell. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you. So Tara, the first thing is, tell us a little bit about who you are. I know that you do so much, and of course, who you are in context of who you are today, but also how you became who you are. Just give us the quick synopsis.
So, could you repeat that just a tad bit?
Guys, so basically, just tell us who you are, what you got going on, what you're doing, in today in this day and age. But then also, tell us, how you came to where you are, like your journey, in a very condensed way. But tell us about yourself.
Sure. Well, I'll start with I am the grandchild of civil rights activists and advocates. Was groomed very early. I am a polit well, not politics. I am a community organizer, a tenant organizer, a political organizer. I've worked in every capacity of organizing that you can think of since the age of, really, if you want to be technical about it, 11 years old. I love people. I love helping people. I love people whose platforms and ideology align with mine. They can get my help. They can financial help as well as my physical help as far as any campaign is concerned. I have a lot of things going on right now, really, to be totally honest. Um, just have a lot of things going on. And I'm on the road back in DC, almost to DC. I'm in Virginia, in Warrenton. Um, just got into the Warrenton area from Memphis. Helped put together a town hall on yesterday for Judge Joe Brown, a TV personality, because he's running for mayor in Memphis, Tennessee, which is my hometown. Actually went to Memphis due
You
to
didn't
a
tell me
death.
that. I didn't know he was running for mayor. You just said you was helping him with something.
Yes, he's running for mayor. I really am helping um, his campaign manager, who was chair of the executive board of Shelby County Democratic Party, in which I served on as well for 3 consecutive terms before I moved to the DC area. So his name is Talu Elamine, and we've been friends for a long time, but very much so working with the sheriff department in Shelby County as well as the Memphis Police Department, very familiar with Judge Joe Brown as well. So they asked me to help them out and put together something. And that is what we did. And that was last night at the public library in Memphis, Tennessee. And I hit the road this morning coming back to DC. So just got to actually have a lot of things going on. Working with a candidate in DC, independent candidate that's interested in running for at-large council seat, trying to help him out and get him situated. Um, just anything I could do. A church member in Memphis that wants to run for the school board. A friend of mine that's running for U.S. Senate, that ran for U.S. Senate in Tennessee before. Marquita Bradshaw. We went to AFL-CIO Training Institute, Organizing Training Institute together, and she ran for Senate last time, and she's running for Senate again this time. So just kind of touching base and keeping in touch with all my peeps in Memphis, as well as just trying to do as much consulting work. I heard you ask to Anthony who was his favorite politician, so I'm gonna jump ahead and tell you Edward Burroughs is my favorite politician, other than yourself.
Okay. The council member Edward Burrows, the young
Yes,
council member.
yes. But you and Edward, I have so much pride in you all and what you all have accomplished. I love your compassion and your passion for the community and for people. I met Ed almost 14 years ago now. When I first moved to the area, I've supported him in every step of the way. But you and he, because you all are the most passionate and true, pure community people that I know, that I think I don't even like to call you politicians. I call you servant leaders because that's the way
Yeah,
you act.
elected public servants, exactly.
Yes, yes. I will not actually damage you by calling you a politician because you are not a politician.
No. And the thing about, I appreciate about Edward is, for one, he's, been doing this forever. So that he's true of heart, but also he's a policy person. So,
Yes,
and I like policy. So of course I like reading bills, like arguing different position points. There's some politicians where they don't necessarily love policy. They love being social.
yes,
They love
yes,
socializing, as opposed to like helping. Because for me, the reason I ran is because I realized that you could change people's lives through policy.
yes, you can.
And policy is where you really make that impact. So, for me, it was be a lawyer, or be involved in policy writing. So
Ex- Exactly. Exactly. I totally agree. You can make some serious positive long-term impacts on people's lives through policy. And you do need to understand policy and be able to, craft bills and do summaries, bill summaries and analysis as well. All that information and knowledge is very important for an elected official to know, regardless of if they have a chief of staff or a legislative assistant. They should know that as well and have the ability to put forth something on their own without even relying on their staff. But that's not always the case.
oh
But I'm
yes,
glad you are and Edward are, and I'm just excited to see some things.
yes.
Excited about Rahila Ahmed running for a state senate. Definitely, I've supported her for the last 14 years as well. So just good to see. I hate that a lot of people are leaving the school board, but I think it's time for them to branch out and everything that they've learned and endured and experienced as school board members. I hope that they put all of that to work to go about the business of the state senate and the Prince George's uh, county council.
Yes, and just like you, I'm sad to see, two of the longer serving elected members, and especially there was a progressive block in Prince George's County
Yes,
that was forming, and that's what was very important, because for me, for several years, I was definitely on the progressive side, and I saw the power building. Okay, we could actually get some votes our way. We could actually get some things passed as more progressives are becoming elected to the school board. So I am sad to see people go to other positions, but they're going to other positions where they could do greater good, right? So they
greater
so
good.
and they could also help assist the board, especially having a very personal, very, very, very personal experience, because they were on the board. So, they know a lot of, what went wrong, what they need to do. Some people who are making these recommendations for the school board have never been a teacher, have never been in some of these schools. So that's why it's important for them to have the experience and to go to the next level, and give us guidance as well. That's the way I look at it. And then we have other new people who are running for those, or who will be running for those positions, who hopefully will be good advocates as well. So there's
Yes,
promise.
I hope so, and I hope that they can give Shayla and Kenneth Harris some backup. Definitely, I think when they
Still got Joshua and David as well. Still got Joshua and David.
well, I love Joshua, David, and I hope that they remain on the board for a little while. But I won't begrudge them moving on and actually growing and maneuvering as Ed and Rahila are. So I won't begrudge them that. But yes, definitely, David and Josh can support and help, where the need is with Shayla and Kenneth. And hopefully if Shawn Michael wins the seat, he will be an addition to that as well. And they can kind of rebuild that progressive bloc again. I think it was very necessary. It scared a lot of people, especially the establishment, but I think it was very much needed. And people always take young people and millennials for granted, but they were about the business of the school board. They were about the business of the students. And that's what I loved about them. And that's what I still love about Josh and David as well.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. And the thought is the school board is always a hot button issue. And, something similar that I asked Anthony is we see a lot of negative highlights about the school board. What is a positive highlight? Because of course, I want to lift up the positive. What are some positive highlights about the school board or just the school system? That you see.
I would say the school board actually really garnered a lot of support from the community. The community insulated and surrounded these elected board members and just have supported them and encouraged them and mentored them. And I think that's the best thing. I haven't seen that in a long time. And me moving to this area, although you said not to mention, I like to mention that as soon as I moved to the area, I learned that the school system had lost funding from the federal government. That was beyond comprehension to me, how that could even happen. That's what was going on when I first moved here 14, almost 15 years ago. And I was like in total, utter disbelief. I'm a product of public schools, but I also was recruited for a preparatory Phillips Exeter Academy in Exeter, New Hampshire, and also in Massachusetts as well. So, and I, as I stated, am a product of public education. But, I blow tests out the water, whether it's the military ASVAB or, the California Achievement Test that they used to have back in the day. And I was recruited until I was 41 for the Air Force and the Army. All of those things was because of what I learned in the teachers, the guidance counselors, the other educators that were my second family, and actually even allowed me and helped me become a page in Congress when I was in the 7th grade, which is why I returned 14 years ago, because I always wanted to work up in the seat of power, which is the nation's capital. And I attribute that to all of my public educators that I had. They were like a village for me.
Well, I mean, that's a great point. And, I appreciate you and of course your guidance, your leadership, because the thought is when you're young and you're running, sometimes you need this guidance for somebody who has your best interest at heart, right? Because sometimes, you can get guidance from people, who don't have your best interest at heart. They just want to see you crash out or they want to,
or they want to puppet you and manipulate you. And I'll submit my suggestions and I'll say things, but I respect you all got where you are really for making your own decisions, and I respect that. But I'm very protective of you all as well, because I know people don't always have your best interests at heart. And politics is a cutthroat game. And I just love to see you all win. And that's what I do, try to help out with that. And that's still even part of being an organizer, which you asked me about. It's about education. I mean, you're educating the people, you're educating tenants. If you're a tenant organizer, you're educating the community. If you're a community organizer, you're educating constituents. If you're a political organizer, and all of that, everything that Mr. Tilghman said before is definitely true. And we don't really educate around the electoral process. Like, even when it comes down to the midterm voting, traditionally African Americans don't vote in the midterms. And that's because they haven't been educated on the importance of voting during the midterms, because that really sets up who's going to be president in the next 4 years. When you put people in office in the midterms, a lot of people don't understand that. So that's where the education piece comes in and some people don't want to educate the people. They make it seem like it's difficult or complex when it's not at all. Once you explain it to them and how it works, it's very simple. And we just have to come together as one and do accomplish the goals that we're set out to accomplish. And I think education is the biggest piece. Since you all were talking about that and I was listening in earlier, I kind of rubber stamp mostly everything that Mr. Tilghman stated earlier.
No, I mean, and even when you talk about education, just very briefly, we're talking about them moving backwards, trying to take history out of school, because the thought is they don't want you to be enlightened. They don't want you to be educated. I didn't learn about the true Martin Luther King until I went to a HBCU. That's when I learned the full scope of Martin Luther King's work, and how he wasn't always as cheery as they might lead you to believe.
Oh no. And he wasn't well liked either. A lot of his speeches, they kind of, they gloss over a lot of his messages and his speeches. But when he started talking about African Americans and economic improvement and process and financial literacy and stability, people didn't like that. When he was saying turn the other cheek, and you hit him and he's going to turn that cheek, and then you hit him on the other cheek, he's going to turn the cheek. But everybody liked that. But nobody liked when he started talking about economic and financial stability for the Black community. They didn't like that. And that's what got him assassinated, those topics, but people want to paraphrase and talk about his speeches and March on Washington and things like that. And those are powerful. But it was more to him than that. So
exactly. And I would even argue that, especially towards the end of his career, his ideology and his mindset was a lot closer to Malcolm than when he started. But of course,
yes, it was.
Of course, there's this whitewashed vision that they'll give to you and present to you, a very docile, subservient, but still powerful and captivating figure.
Yes.
But, so it's a little bit different than, what I would learn in my HBCU. But that's something that, in 8th grade, if we had an honest conversation about this, it would have been transformational. And me understanding, who I am and the power that I have as a Black man, because, knowing your history is powerful.
Yes, it is.
But no, okay. So the one thing I will ask you, of course, before I get you out of here, because I see you doing a million things and doing a million great things as always, is what is something that you look forward to seeing Prince George's County, if there was a vision for in the next 10, 15, 20 years? What is something that you want to see? Because you've been here for a while, you've been all over the country. What do you want to see gorgeous Prince George's, just one thing that you wanted to see in the next 10, 15, 20 years? And I know you probably got to ask it, but we just want one. We just want one.
Okay, one. Okay. I would like to see restorative practices in the school system for the students. Anything dealing with education and the students, I would like for them to bring back the training and the support for students with disabilities and autism, because they have really skimped on the they stopped getting the funding for that. For one thing, they gave up the funding for that as well, which was disappointing. So anything dealing with I am pro education, always have been. My grandparents were, who raised me. So just improving and building on the education system, and I do believe we should have an all-elected school board. as Mr. Tillman said, if we vote for the county exec, why does she get to select who she wants when we vote for her? So, enough said on that. But anything dealing with
on it. And she ran on it.
excuse me.
No, I
And
said,
she did write on it. She did. She did write on it. Yeah. And I've heard recently that she's trying to go back to that. I don't know if that's just a political maneuver, to be reelected. I'm not sure what that is, but what has happened in the last few years was not acceptable at all. And it just caused division and stress and strife and chaos and confusion within the school board. And, it shouldn't be separate. Everybody should be working together. And you shouldn't have to build a faction, to protect yourself. Everybody should be fighting for the same thing. But, with the biggest budget in Prince George's County, which is the school system, other than public safety, a lot of people trying to maneuver to have access to that funding, and they have other ideas for that funding that does not include fully funding and the schools and education. Education has been dumbed down, and I want to see Prince George's County bring it back up. I would like to even see shop and home ec, all those classes come back, because everybody don't do college is not college ready.
I'm glad you said that. No, that's important. And we need more skilled people who have trade skills, because of course, as you said, some people don't necessarily love college. Of course, I encourage everyone to try out college or community college.
Right. Yeah.
But the thought is that they should have these programs, in the schools, because even if you don't go into the industry, let's say you now have a skill set in which you can monetize that skill set. So let's say you do a part-time, you're just fixing cars part-time now. You know what I mean? So that's why. And then the thought is make sure we have more science and tech, and we should teach coding as early as possible. We should teach
as
coding
early as possible. I'm definitely supportive of coding for the young ones, for the young kids. Because my grandson is 9 years old, and he's been on a phone and learning a phone since he's like 3 or 4 years old. And he knows, he even broke into my phone, learned my code by just constantly using random numbers. So kids are really, gravitating toward that, and we need to build and expound on that. We shouldn't snuff it out or silence it. We should be encouraging it and building it up.
I agree. And of course, I got to get you out of here. We're wrapping up. So I wanted to ask you these the two questions. You already answered the third one.
Okay.
First, Pepsi or Coke?
Can I say Coke Zero? I'm not a classic Coke fan, but I love Coke Zero.
No, you can say Coke Zero. You can say Coke Zero. That's perfectly fine. The next thing you already answered, of course, your figure, and you said Edward Burroughs. So, glad living Black history.
Well, I have to say you and Edward. I've known Edward the longest, but I really just hitting the pavement with you and canvassing. I just loved everything you did. You had your own little signature thing that you did that drew attention. You're very personable. You could see the passion. You gave everybody time. I loved it. So, I have grown to include you into that as well. So you are a neck and neck.
You called a figure, you know what I mean? I was honored this month for Black History Month, and of course, I was delighted, but it was weird, to be, a figure or anything like that, because, I'm just doing the work.
I know.
Exactly. And then the next question, and the very last one, who is your favorite Black superhero, if you have one?
Okay. I have to say, well, I have two of those as well, because I'm very good friends with Bobby Seale, who's a Black Panther. He's still living, Bobby Seale. He's still living. I read all his books.
I didn't know you
but Angela Davis is my primary. That was my soul sister number one. She was public enemy number one. Now she gets paid, $250,000 for a lecture and to speak now after being public enemy number one for years. So her and, well, actually three, Asada as well. Asada
You
Shakur
gotta
as well.
stop. You're giving me too much, but I love it. I love all these are great people. All these are great people. So before I get out of here, tell the people, of course, where they can reach you, how they can stay in contact with you. If you have any social media handles or anything you want to share.
Sure, I am on Instagram and Maxwell T. Maxwell. I'm on Facebook as just Tara Maxwell. And for the most part, you can always see me there and gravitate out. A lot of people have my number. You can reach out to Martin if you need any type of consulting services, because I do a lot of consulting, not only just in the DMV, in Nashville as well as in Memphis as well. Decided to just start doing consulting instead of punching somebody's clock all the time. And that way I can kind of do what I want to do and do what I love and still get paid to do it. So Tara Maxwell on Facebook, Maxwell T. Maxwell on Instagram, Panther, Bartlett Panther on Twitter. So I'm on all of those. I have different names and everything, but if you really want to contact me, you can contact me through Martin Mitchell. I don't have a problem with him giving my number or my email out if there's any information that's needed or assistance that's needed.
Okay, we look forward to staying connected. Thank you very much, Tara, for joining us.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you for having me. I really was honored, and keep up the great work.
No problem. I'll talk to you soon. Appreciate you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Until next week, guys. This was episode 3, People Over Politics. We'll see you next week for episode 4.